Well, AFC Wimbledon did unfortunately lose 3-2 to Port Vale this afternoon in a five-goal thriller. An absolute mental game it was at Port Vale today at Vale Park. Just a mental game. Just a quick brief before we get into the full preview. Port Vale went 2-0 up in the space of 11 minutes. Very two disappointing goals. We'll get onto that. Josh Newville in the 61st minute made it 2-1. Jaden Stockley, a minute later, made it 3-1 to Port Vale. Miles Hippolyte, 15 minutes later, made the deficit go to 1 and put Vale up 3-2. And then we kept peppering the goal. So many chances to talk about. So let's dive into it now. So, AS Wimbledon started the game very, very poorly. To be honest, Kova, Richards got their 2 goals in the space of 11 minutes. Disappointing 2 goals. I don't want to sound too salty to any Port Vale fans that are watching, but I think all 3 goals are avoidable in my opinion. The first one, Ryan Johnson just hits it, he doesn't even really think about it. Ryan Johnson just hits it against one of the Port Vale players, then it deflects over, they go on the counter-attack and score. Decent finish, but then the player who's scored the goal was unmarked in the box because of Ryan Johnson not tracking back and making a mistake. So then that's one less player that is defending an attacker inside the box. Second one went over his head. Ryan Johnson again went over his head, and then they made it 2-0. Again, really disappointing. We haven't really seen Wimbledon make too many mistakes for goals that we conceded before this game. We've only conceded 6 in the league. All of them, they were probably mistakes. I think, as I said, all 3 goals are avoidable, but those type of games that we saw today will be the difference between teams that are up there and teams which just don't make it. Port Vale scrambled, they defended well, and they got over the line in the end, which will probably be a very, very important 3 points when you look at the table at the end of the season, at the start of May next year. Half-time, 2-0, disappointing. Wimbledon did, though, hit the post through a Matty Stevens header, which was such a slow one. Didn't know if it was going wide. I think it pretty much confused Connor Ripley in the Port Vale net. But yeah, we had a couple chances from free kicks, from set pieces, corners. It's still disappointing. I said it in my match preview and my match review for the Morecambe game. Yesterday we won 3-0 against Morecambe, but I think the fact that we're not scoring from corners, set pieces, like against Morecambe we had 8 corners in the first half and didn't capitalise from any of them. And the fact that we've got the players, Ryan Johnson, Riley Arbuttle, Josh Newville, Omar Bugle, Matty Stevens can score from headers as well. I think, and the amount of times we got fouled on the outside of the box where we have players like James Tilley who can swing in an absolute peach of a cross, and players get on the end of it, but we're not converting those chances. So, for example, Joe Lewis probably had 2 or 3 headers in the first half from free kicks, which we didn't capitalise on, which we really should have, because we've seen how good Joe Lewis can do from headers. I remember last season against Stevenage in the Bristol Street Motors Trophy, scored a really, really good header. And we have the players to do it. And I think if we took our chances from free kicks, they hacked us down, they fouled us, they tried to be physical, as we are a physical side, so they tried to match us in that sort of way. And if we just need to take chances from set pieces, I think that's a big criticism from me to take from today. Josh Newville then with a really good finish in the 61st minute. It was interesting because Johnny Jackson switched James Tilley and Josh Newville to go from the other side, where James Tilley looked like in the first half he couldn't really get round the Port Vale right back. Fair play to him, he was very strong, physical, good player. So they switched on the other side. Josh Newville cut inside, keeper saved it, then went in off the post. It's what Wimbledon deserved. I'll talk about the possession in a minute. We had the most amount of possession in the game, so I think, and we were creating chances from it, and we were scoring goals finally, but we still didn't get 3 points or any sort of points at all in today's game against Port Vale. But yeah, Josh Newville with a really good goal. Really happy for him. I think he's been absolutely class this season, cutting in on that side. He hasn't actually played on that side this season, so it's interesting. He comes from that side and scores. But yeah, he did play well. And then the most disappointing thing in the whole game, a minute later, Jaden Stockley goes and scores to make it 3-1 to Port Vale, where Wimbledon have been on top for the whole of the second half. Fair play to them. As I said, it's like, I'm not trying to sound salty to any Port Vale fans that are watching. You guys played really well. You matched us to try. You tried to match the physicality that we have. You knew that we'd be a threat in the air and everything like that. And I think you guys did superbly well to try and beat us. And at the end of the day, you did. You got the 3 points. You remain top of the league. Fair play to you. But again, as a Wimbledon point of view, it's another goal which is just highly avoidable. Can't remember as of much, but again, I think I remember looking back at the highlights and watching it on iFollow. Ryan Johnson is again out of position. I don't know if it was really his fault, but then it's a cross into the box. And when you have a player like Jaden Stockley, highly experienced in the EFL, in League Two and League One, he's always going to score the header. But again, unmarked, and that should have been Johnson versus Stockley, as Ryan Johnson was again unmarked. So technically, he's at fault for all 3 goals, which is very, very disappointing in my eyes. But it is what it is. Wimbledon still peppered Port Vale, still kept the possession, still kept getting fouled. I thought the referee was a bit diabolical, to be honest, from both sides. As I was watching it on iFollow, we had to watch it through the home iFollow commentators, and the amount of times they're saying Wimbledon getting free kicks when they were fouls was a bit annoying. But it is what it is. When you have fans commentating iFollow, I think that's always what's going to happen. Miles Hippolyte then made it 3-2 in the 78th minute from a free kick, which was apparently offside by Josh Kelly, but it is what it is. It's referees. You couldn't really see from the camera angle if he was offside because the camera was so close to the players. But Miles Hippolyte, free kick on the right-hand side, left-footed, swinged it in. Definitely wasn't a shot, but didn't hit anyone, then ended up into the back of the net for 3-2. And then ever since that goal, Wimbledon just kept coming. We had some massive chance where I think we hit the bar about twice. Connor Ripley had an absolutely brilliant save. I think Alistair Smith, Miles Hippolyte hit the bar. Should have been 3-0. I think Wimbledon did deserve a point when you compare the chances we had in the first half, where we hit the post, hit the bar, and other countless chances that we had. But it is what it is. Port Vale dug in deep, brought on Ben Hennigan, which I thought he did really good, cut out a couple through balls. But other than that, it's just a disappointing result. I think, yes, Port Vale were good, but all 3 goals were very avoidable. Johnny Jackson did speak in previous interviews about how, I've seen it on Twitter, that people have been saying that if you play well, you keep the shirt, and people have been saying Ogundere has been playing well but hasn't kept the shirt. He came on and played decently, to be honest, even though he didn't really have much defensive work to do. But Port Vale did spend big in the summer. They got good owners. They got a good manager who tactically is a very good manager. So when you have players like that and they can dwell off a mistake really easily, it's what's, as I said at the start of the video, going to be the cutting edge of this season. It's going to be a cutting edge between teams which finished in the top 3 and teams which finished just outside the playoffs. Looking at the stats, Wimbledon are actually, it was pretty even. Wimbledon had 55.8% of the ball, which I thought is crazy. We've never really seen that before, especially away from home. We don't really dominate, but I thought we've really dominated Port Vale off when we were on the ball. Created 13 shots, only 4 on target. Kind of the same with Port Vale, 10 shots, 4 on target. So technically they had a better accuracy rate than us. But we still created a lot of chances, 6 shots off target, which is disappointing. Need to just get more shots off. I mean, not even get more shots off, just get them more on target, which would be the better thing to do. So now let's talk about AFC Wimbledon's lineup really quickly, see who I thought played well. Goodman, you can't really fault him for any of the 3 goals, to be honest. It was really the defence in front of him. Lewis and Ball played okay. I just think the back 3, Johnson wasn't at the races today. You could tell in the first 11 minutes when we conceded 2 goals, both of them were at his fault. Not too sure about the third one. Tilly was okay. Found it tough to kind of get round their right back and get crosses into the box. Was better in the second half, kind of going from the other side. Hippolyte, Smith and Maycock, they were pretty decent. I mean, we had most of the possession. So I think when they were on the ball, they were decent. They didn't really play a part in the Port Vale goals, so they didn't really have much to do in them. Again, it was just defensive mistakes for all 3 goals. Neuville played well. Found it tough again to get past his to get past the Port Vale left back, but was better in the second half when he can cut inside and get a shot off, as he did with a goal. Stevens and Omar Bugle, it's a tough one. I don't really think they offered much. Stevens hit the post, obviously, in the first half, was okay. Omar Bugle was physical, tried to match the Port Vale defence, but just couldn't get on the edge of anything, to be honest with you. Now, at the last bit of the stage of the video, let's look at the table. Port Vale go still top of the league. 4 points clear from Walsall, with Walsall having a game in hand, up to 30 points, which is sensational, with 14 games played. Wimbledon do go down to 12th, 3 points off the playoffs, 9 goal difference, with still 3 games in hand, which, if we win all of them, will put us second place in the league table behind Port Vale. So I think at the end of November, my opinion on that might be completely different. I might go in and say, no, we're not really that good at the moment, because we didn't win our 2 games at home. Not our 2 games at home, 2 of our games in hand. So the games in hand is where it's going to be make or break for the start of our season. To be honest, we have 2 in November, 1 at home and 1 away. So we'll see what happens there. But that's the end of the video. 11 minutes of me waffling to you guys. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments on Wimbledon's loss to Port Vale today. Port Vale fans, also, please put down in the comments how happy you are with that win. You go 4 points clear in the top of the table. Would love to hear your thoughts on the game and the start of your season. So yeah, thank you for watching. Come on, you Dons, next week, a massive game against the franchise.